Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. This week we watched Good Will Hunting. In today's episode, we have myself, Cameron, Zach, Carlos, and Ben. To kick this thing off and get everybody in the right mood, we're going to pass it over to Carlos for this week's featured cocktail.
Thanks, Dylan. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in for another week. This episode, we are taking a look at the Boston Rum Punch in honor of our movie Good Will Hunting. This recipe is written by David Wondrick from liquor.com. So let's get into it. For this drink, you are going to need 2 ounces of traditional Jamaican rum. You're going to need some lemonade to fill the rest of your glass, and the garnish of a strawberry and orange slice. I thought this drink was pretty delicious. It's citrusy, tropical, and pretty much has no bad things about it, at least for me. Boys, what did you think?
Having seen and heard other David Wondrich cocktails, I'm surprised how simple this one is. The recipe calls for Smith & Cross, which I have, but I have the Navy proof, so it's proofed up a little bit. I think it's 100 proof. But I feel like a couple of these could get you feeling some type of way. They're an easy sip.
If you make your own Boston Rum Punch, send us a picture on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod and use hashtag Cocktails and Classics. Or if Twitter is your thing, tweet us at Cocktails Class. We'd love to see and hear how your Boston Rum Punch came out. And if you haven't seen the movie Good Will Hunting, sit back, sip on this week's cocktail, and enjoy the show. There will be spoilers from here on out, so heads up. Otherwise, continue on for our post-movie discussion.
This week, we watched Good Will Hunting, a 1997 film written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, directed by Gus Van Sant, stars Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, Minnie Driver, music by Danny Elfman. Ben's over there. He's excited.
Hey, Danny Elfman is fantastic, and if you're trying to take a verbal shit on Danny Elfman, Dylan, we're gonna have words.
Watching the movie, I was like, this score is very simplistic, it seems, but it is also very moving. I appreciated it. It just kind of sat in the background, and I was like, yeah, that's music.
It let the other parts of the movie be the star of the show.
This is basically a movie of monologues and of sorts. It currently has an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. It is number 88 on the top 250 on IMDb. It won 2 Oscars. Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Robin Williams. Best Writing for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the youngest to ever do it. Also nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role for Matt Damon, Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Minnie Driver, Best Director for Gus Van Sant, Best Film Editing, Best Music by Elliott Smith, and Best Music by Danny Elfman. Jeez, this movie, highly touted. Highly touted. Cameron, what was your initial reactions to Good Will Hunting?
When we first picked this movie, I wasn't initially excited that much about watching it, just because it seemed kind of sappy almost. But I actually did like the movie. I was expecting going into it to not enjoy it that much, but I actually really liked the movie. It was not quite what I expected it to be, but at the same time, I guess I kind of figured what it was going into it, and it pretty much was that, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
You just felt like one of the boys.
Yeah, I will say this movie doesn't really give you any twists or turns. I mean, it pretty much tells you what it is from the get-go. There's no we're going to spend all of this time introducing it, and then we're actually going to swerve into something else. No, this is what it is. There's no... I think, honestly, the biggest kind of swerve is when they finally introduce Robin Williams' character.
Takes, a third of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept doing, a vibe check on Will the entire movie in my notes. I'm like, nope, still an ass. No, still an ass.
He's an asshole for most of the movie.
A vibe check.
Can I get a vibe check? I don't love you. All right, never mind.
Still an ass.
I just need to hear you say it that you don't love me.
And then I'll go away forever. I don't love you.
Come to California with me. I can't. I live here. You could just live somewhere else.
Right. I can't move because I live here.
Yeah, and then he's talking to Chucky, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to live here forever. We're going to grow up right next to each other, and our kids are going to be watching the Pats. It's going to be great. It's just like, no.
And he's like, I will murder you and your family if you're still here in 20 years.
I will
got
fucking
pretty
kill
aggressive.
you if you're still here.
That's not a joke. That is a fact. I will fucking kill you.
Because I'm going to grow up and become Batman, and I will beat the shit out of you.
I am so loyal to you that I will kill you.
I don't care if you're Jason Bourne. I'm Batman.
That's how you know he's a good friend, He loves him so much that he'll kill him if he wastes his life.
I felt a little betrayed at one scene. Matt Damon was drinking Pete's coffee and not Dunkin' Donuts. What a fucking piece of shit. This is Boston. In Boston, we drink Dunkins.
He's too high IQ for Dunkin' Donuts.
I mean, but he always gets it. That's all Ben brings him. Is it because he's a lesser person? So he's like, here's some Dunkins, and he's just always like, I guess, like, I'll accept it because it's free coffee, but...
Is that what he brings?
Well,
is that is that a detail you noticed in the movie?
Yeah.
Weird.
When he comes out of jail, he brings him some Pete's coffee.
Oh, he brings him Pete's. I gotcha.
Or sorry, no.
Maybe,
when he gets out of jail, he brings him Dunkin'.
But when he's at the cafe.
And then when he's like sitting
yeah.
at the table. Yeah.
Maybe pizza's cheaper,
Yeah, but
Maybe that's all he had.
every time
Dunkin' is cheaper. Come
every
on.
time he picks him up though in the morning, he also still has Dunkin'.
Yeah.
You know what they
Always.
say?
Every time-
Boston runs on
Every time he
Dunkin'.
takes those 10 seconds.
I was also watching to see what beers they were drinking. I think they were Stroh's beers.
What?
They were drinking most of the time.
Was Stroh's still in production in the 90s? Because they like went away for a while, and then they came back, right?
Yeah, they started making ice cream.
That is.
Yeah.
Is that the same company?
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Learn
they
that.
started making ice cream, but yeah.
Learned that one today.
Well, they might have like moved the production elsewhere and then came back to Detroit or something.
Yeah, it was the
just
company.
remember it was, like,
the
a
company
huge
broke
thing.
up in 2000.
So that would have been some OG Stroh's beer.
Oh,
Well,
so yeah.
The original recipe.
yeah, I was gonna say because this movie was '97, so yeah, they're drinking some good Stroh's, not the new shit.
Oh, okay, yeah, the Stroh family sold the brand
Sick.
to Pabst Brewing Company in '99.
Of course,
Ooh, some peepers.
PBR.
dude. Like every
PBR.
alcohol in the world is owned by like 5 companies.
Right. It's like Anheuser-Busch, Pabst.
Coors.
Yeah, those types of people.
I'd seen this movie before, and it's been a long ass time, and I didn't quite realize that this movie is. There's not necessarily a lot of like big scenes. There's a lot of monologues. There's a lot of like talking back and forth, but there's not much like literal action or like what is happening. It's very dialogue driven, I feel like. Did anyone have any memorable scenes? I think most of mine are tied to like dialogue, but
I think for me, it's probably like the Robin Williams and Matt Damon scene where he's just telling him it's not your fault. It's not your fault, because that's just, he keeps repeating that, but you can obviously see the tone is changing in the scene. Kind of gets Matt Damon to break down his walls.
Yeah, it's a great piece of acting. The two of them in this movie make a lot of awesome scenes to watch.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was Will, after he pulls the whole outsmarting the smart douchey guy at the bar, and he taps on the glass and goes, "Hey, how do you like them apples? I got her number." That's a nice scene. That's when you start to, you're on Will's side. You're rooting for him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. That scene I feel like is one of the ones where I haven't not seen this movie. That's one of the ones where I had recognized from pop culture and other TV shows, like basically imitating that scene, like either making fun of it or whatever. So that one to me stuck out. I mean, to me, honestly, any scene with Robin Williams in it was great. I loved him in like every scene that he was in. Like he was just so like genuine. I felt like as his character, which was great.
Yeah, the other big one, I think, like from pop culture and memes that you would probably recognize is the one where they're on the bench and he's telling him about like his wife and stuff. He's like, you wouldn't know about art, you wouldn't know about being in love, you wouldn't know about this. He's like, but I read Oliver Twist, so I know all about you, you orphan.
Yeah, it was interesting. He was basically saying like, you might be book smart, but until you actually experience things, like you're not
you don't actually know. Yeah, you don't actually know shit. Like,
right.
That was like the big thing though, because Matt Damon can, he can regurgitate all this information he's like just taken in, but it's like it's not based on experience. It's just based on, stuff that he's invested time to research and read and stuff.
Yeah, as much a perspective as you can get from your $1.50 education at the local library.
$1.50 in late charges at the library.
Oh yeah, just in late charges.
So my favorite scene in this was when Will sends Chucky to his interview. Chucky's sitting there like trying to get money out of everyone.
I'm gonna need a retainer.
How much money do you guys
I need
have
a
in your
retainer.
pockets?
I need $200. I'll tell you right now, I'll feel a lot better with $200 in my back pocket. I've got $72.
Right. Which, and in that scene, I couldn't tell, was he wearing Matt Damon's suit? Because it looked the pants were so
It
short
was short.
on Ben Affleck.
Oh, he was flooding hard.
I took that just to be that they're all poor and that's the only suit he had.
Oh, I mean, he's wearing gym socks.
Right. That's why I just didn't know if, like, as like part of like the gag, like that he was actually wearing like something that Matt Damon would wear, or like Matt Damon's pants.
I took it as the fact that he probably hasn't needed a suit since he was a kid, and that's probably the same suit he's had since forever. So he's just never had another one. So when he's like, I need you to go to this job interview, I just imagine he like pulled the suit out, put it on. His pants were like halfway up his calf, and he's just like, well, I guess this is what it is.
Cover the rest with gym sock.
Yep, throw some gym socks on and some loafers also, just to finish everything off.
The other scene when they're just like sitting on the car smoking cigarettes and drinking beer, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they talk about like, oh, if in 60 years you're still here doing construction, I'm gonna kill you.
You got a gift, man. Anybody here would kill for it, and you got a gift.
He's like, I don't like, stop telling me that. I don't have to do anything for myself. He's like, nah, fuck you. Do it for me. Like, fuck you. I would kill to have what you have. So it's an insult for you to not take advantage of it.
What a good friend.
I mean, that's what Robin Williams' character says later, right? He's like, why he hangs out with those people? It's because they're loyal. They would come and beat you up. They would come and beat you with a baseball bat if he asked them to.
The fact that they literally jumped a kid that picked on him in kindergarten tells you.
Is that why they beat him up? I totally missed why they did that.
Well, and he was like disrespecting that girl.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but literally when they're at the ballpark,
and they just like decided to get out and beat the shit.
No, it was they spotted them, saw them like harassing the girl, and then they were like, "Oh, like I recognize that kid. Like he, picked on me in kindergarten." And then they hop out, and obviously everyone joins in.
It's the same guy that was hitting on that girl because Casey Affleck's character. Yeah,
the girl with the striped pants.
Casey Affleck's character says something about the fact that we should have jumped him at the ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, if we were gonna beat him up, we should have just beat him up there.
Yeah.
I'm eating my burger.
Your cheeseburger. Give me the cheeseburger.
My double burger.
My double.
But was he eating his burger because he still owes Ben 86 cents?
Yeah.
Ben just chucked it at him. He stopped giving a shit.
Got to establish a good line of credit.
That's easy when your little brother's the other actor. You pick on him.
Fucking Rent-A-Center, like that guy's mom bought a couch. Fucking layaway. Put this fucking double cheeseburger on layaway.
I'm sorry, anyone from Boston that listens to this podcast. We were offending your people, and
We're so bad with accents.
You don't hear the Midwestern accent made fun of too much until like you leave the country. Then people will point at the like A's in Michigan. But I think we're pretty lucky. We get off pretty scot-free in terms of getting made fun of. But the Bostonians, they really catch the short end of the stick.
I mean, when I moved up to Michigan, you guys definitely have an accent. It's not as bad as like Chicago. You guys have like a similar accent.
It's Chicago.
Chicago. It's like
Chicago.
Chicago's like it's really nasally. Like you got to say it from the back of your nasal passage.
Bears.
So we already talked about a couple of them, but what were your most quotable lines?
Oh, there's so many in this movie. This movie's full of them.
How you like them apples?
There's Cam's accent.
There you go. There it is.
I think mine still has to be, and I honestly forgot about it, but it's my favorite, is when he's seeing the first therapist and he's talking about being at the dance club. He's like, is it hard for you hiding the fact you're gay? What? Hey, I don't care if you putt from the rough. It's just that line. Whoa, hey, 2 seconds ago you were about ready to give me a jump.
How about Give Us a Kiss from Skylar?
Oh my gosh. She's telling that
Her
story.
blowjob.
Oh yeah.
Oh, another one is look, if you're gonna jerk off, why don't you do it at home with a moist towel?
Yeah. Like so many of Robin Williams' lines were just kind of like one-liners almost, where, like that one, like it kind of like was just like he went from like, oh, you're wasting my time, to like that joke, which was like great.
He says it so like nonchalant, like it just like drops it in conversation. There's no like, it's totally straight faced. You're just like, oh, okay.
At the end of therapy, when Will's like, does this violate doctor-patient confidentiality? And Sean goes, not unless you grab my ass.
Yeah.
Delivered so straight.
Another Skylar is I can be in the NBA. I'm tall. I like to wear shorts. Hook, dunk, baby. I'm all about 3 points.
She was convinced she was going to be in the NBA.
What? Why is it such an awkward? It's like an awkward line.
It's because she's foreign.
It's like I don't know if this girl's ever seen sports before.
She's from Europe.
Yeah, still to this day,
That's
no
why.
British women in the NBA.
I think the line had to go see about a girl.
Oh yeah, so touching.
Classic.
I liked the scene, or I guess like lines, I don't know, where he's like, he describes the baseball game and they both get really into it. And he was like, so you were there? And he's like, nah, I was at a bar drinking with my wife. He's like, what?
Will loses it. He goes off on Sean.
Like, your friends let you do that? He's like, they saw the look in my eye and they knew. He's like, I don't regret that. That's not a regret.
Yeah, you can see like Will's like, oh, I know about that historical event. I read about it. I can't believe you had a chance to actually be there. And then Robin Williams comes back and he's like, it's not that important though. Which is interesting because that's really all Will knows, you know? Lives in South Boston his whole life and hasn't actually had those experiences. And here's Robin Williams trying to tell him like, no, that experience is the thing that matters, not being at the baseball game.
I do agree though. Lots of one-liners. Lots of Robin Williams one-liners. I just appreciate, and or even just the monologue he's delivering, talking about the jobs, about why someone in the service comes home angry after his job's been basically exported out to a country he's been fighting against, and I forget who he's talking to, but it kind of like morphs from like him talking like from people at like at the job interview to
the NSA.
The NSA, and then it just kind of morphs into him talking to Robin Williams. I just like that bit.
You know, I've been laid. Good for you.
Right. Plenty of times.
Good for you.
Thanks
Okay.
for
My
the info,
wife used
bud.
to fart in her sleep.
Yeah, just
That's what I mean is even that like story, even though it's funny, like it just comes off so genuine. Like, and God, he's so good.
Yeah. Well, I think like even in the first interaction when Will is talking about the painting of the man in the rowboat, and Robin Williams kind of tells him like, well, I think you should watch your mouth. Like, but he says it in like a tone it's like, oh, he's about to go ham, and then he kind of pushes and pushes and pushes, and he doesn't even need to yell. He just kind of chokes Matt Damon out and is like, don't mess with me kind of thing in it.
If you disrespect my wife again, I'll kill you.
But he does it in like such a calm way that it's kind of like, okay, he doesn't need his over the top like ecstatic dialogue.
This is one of those movies, it kind of makes me sad, that we'll never have another Robin Williams movie.
Yeah.
It's like when I watch Philip Seymour Hoffman, I'm like, shit, dude, I will never get to see another Philip Seymour Hoffman film, like a new one. Obviously, you can go back and you can watch these, and it's like you don't know the person, but just the thought of like that this great talent, we had them for such a short time, feels like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, yeah, especially when you get to see, some of the stars in that of the magnitude of comedy that we've had that have gone on to do work into their 80s or 90s. And you think, what more we could have gotten from Robin Williams as time went on. It does make you kind of sad when you watch this or really any movie he does that, kind of leaves you wishing that you could get something more or something new.
This was the first movie I had watched like with Robin Williams since he died. That's why I kind of like it. It did hit in the feels because like it's you miss, like you said, you miss seeing it. You expect like that talent to just be kind of consistent, in a way, immortal, I guess, because it's like you kind of expect their career and talent to like continuously be ongoing. If you talk about someone who's, I know we have a big thing with like Jack Nicholson on this podcast, and to see like the line of work that he's done like in his huge like career, you know what I mean? It's like it is really sad that we won't be able to get that from Robert Williams.
Yeah, as long as we don't lose Jeff Goldblum, I think this podcast will be fine.
Jeff Goldblum is a national treasure.
That's the beauty of
Rawr.
acting, but also film, I believe, is that film is this time capsule, and this whatever 40 days that Robin Williams spent making Good Will Hunting in 1997, we have that forever. And as long as people restore the movie and keep the archives alive, that we'll always have these memories with him, but we won't necessarily get any new things. And that's what I like about film, is that it is this point in time, this day, this scene, this shot, like mishap of everything that brought us this piece of film for this scene right here, and we have that forever.
It's very much like the Cocktails and Classics podcast, where it's us sitting down. At this point, the archives will be maintained. The show will go on, so to speak, without us being there.
Well,
Our
forever.
Millions of listeners will be able to continue relishing. This podcast is basically like The Office, but for Spotify. Like, people will always have a Netflix account so they can watch The Office
that's not true anymore.
until it goes to Peacock. And people will always have Spotify so they can listen to the Cocktails and Classics podcast.
And Zach, if you're still here in 30 years making podcasts, I will kill you.
Was there a holy shit moment or any big surprises for anyone in the film?
I don't know if it was a surprise, but I hated how Will treated his girlfriend. I hated it so much. I felt so bad for her the whole time. I was like, dude, you are such a piece of shit the entire time. Like we were talking about before, she was like, if you just say, I don't love you, I'll just go away forever. I won't talk to you ever again. And then he's just like, I don't love you, bye. And then leaves. And then he calls her again, like, oh, I just wanted to call you before you go to California. And she's like, I love you. And then there's like a long pause. And he's like, all right, well, good luck, bye.
Take care.
It's like, God, like, no. Like, honestly, I know the end is kind of endearing because he's like going to go get the girl. But like, he doesn't deserve her. Come on. Like, she was so like nice to him.
Well, I think the big thing is that the fact that because he was abused so much, he pushes everyone away. I mean, you got to figure when you're a kid, your parents leave you. The first place you go to, you finally find this parent figure who beats you constantly. So yeah, That's like the whole point, is the fact that he's constantly pushing people away. And I think that's also why he can't bring himself to say I love you.
No, I understand all that. It's just that
Like when he calls her again.
I understand all that. It's just more so that she shouldn't have to carry that burden too. It's like, I get that he's going through issues, but she shouldn't have to like it's not fair, but like she shouldn't have to like bear those consequences either, you know?
For him, that was, I mean, that's the thing. For him, it wasn't normal. And like, obviously, if I guess, like, in terms of like an attachment, attachment issues that he's got, or, where he kind of like self-destructs the situation, that's kind of like, maybe, like I said, it's his way of having like a defense mechanism of saying, oh, like, you're putting it up with it, you're putting up with all this, but let me keep pushing the envelope to see how, what's gonna make this break before something happens, or before you leave.
Yeah, the relationship serves a really pivotal point in the movie to show just how screwed up Will Hunting is. But yeah, I agree with Cam. Skyla should have left his ass.
Yeah,
Should've
yeah,
dealt
and
with
it's like, and it's not making like excuses. Obviously he's still got to be accountable, like, for how he treated, because I mean, really, he does like go way out of line. But I found it interesting because like Robin Williams makes a point to say like, hey, if you keep pushing and pushing, this kid's gonna, he's gonna break. And obviously, like, what Robin Williams is doing with Matt Damon, and what Skylar's character is doing, it's kind of along the same lines. Like, they want him to break down his walls, and I think that's what we see what happens if there's too much pushing on Will's part, like, to try to have him break down his walls like way too early, or before he's too comfortable to do that.
I didn't even think about that. My like surprised kind of holy shit moment was along the same lines, is when Will is talking about the art to Sean, and then he says the thing. He's like, "Oh, you married the wrong woman," and he like finds that it ticks off Sean.
Yeah,
and
he
then
finally
he just gets
found
that
the
like
thing.
smug fucking look in his face, and he's gonna keep pushing. And he like keeps going on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's dead, and don't fucking talk about my wife, you piece of shit."
Yeah, well, he tries to
wow,
break.
Will is an ass.
Yeah, he tries to break all of his therapists. He calls one of them gay. He starts singing "Afternoon Delight" to the other one, and he just can't figure out the thing that makes Robin Williams tick. They talk about the books, and he finally figures it out. Wife died. Sensitive subject, I guess.
Yeah, but Sean's not taking that shit. He'll choke you out in a heartbeat.
Oh no, Sean was in a POW camp.
I actually think that
He's a fucking Southie.
I think that moment is when Will actually gained some respect for that therapist, just because like you said, he tried to break down all the other ones, but this one like it didn't put up with his shit, and basically was like, "Don't do that again, or I'll fucking kill you."
Oh, the scene where they don't show the full thing, obviously, but where they just have the stare down for an entire hour session. And Sean tells Jerry after, he's like, it's admirable. It's pretty awesome. He was able to sit there and not say a word, or just waited for the seconds to go by. But I can't speak first.
Yep.
Like, wow. How many times were you prepared to do that? That was crazy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. How it works is every month members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection. Audible has a free, easy-to-use app that allows you to download titles and listen offline at your convenience. Dylan and Ben, what are your experiences with Audible?
So I used the Audible free trial a couple years ago, and I've gone back to it since. I listened to Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I really like it when I'm driving on like long road trips.
I used it to listen to one of James Ellroy's LA quartet novels, The Big Nowhere. I would definitely recommend it to anyone on the go, whether it's just driving to work or for long flights. It's great. You can, listen to something on your phone, connect it to Bluetooth. You get to work, log into your work computer, and listen up.
To start your free 30-day trial, go to audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics, all lowercase. Again, that's audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics. After your free trial is up, it'll cost $14.95 per month. However, there are no commitments, and if you can't decide what to listen to at that particular month, that's okay. You can always roll your credits over for up to a year.
A little bit of a tradition around here is Zach takes over and gives us a trivia quiz. So, Zach, take it away.
We will jump right into it. The first question. In the scene where Will calls Skylar in the pouring rain from a payphone when Will can't really speak, can't bring himself to talk to her, Skylar is studying a book. What was the topic of the book? Was it A, abandonment issues, B, organic chemistry, or C, sexual dysfunction?
I feel like the obvious answer is organic chemistry, but I don't want to say that because that feels wrong for some reason.
So it's the book she's reading when he calls her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls her in the pouring rain from the payphone, and he never says anything.
And she says something like, Professor Valenti, is that you calling me again?
Which is weird.
Super creepy.
And then he goes back to the car, and then they're like, you didn't know the number?
I was calling your mom's line. I ran out of quarters.
I was calling your mom's 900 number.
We did not talk about how creepy Jerry
Right.
Lambo is as a professor, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
dude,
I
yeah.
totally forgot about that because it happened in the very first
Getting
like
real
10 minutes of the movie.
Animal House vibes.
where he's like,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
He was actually
only
the
if I
social
take you out
studies
for a
professor.
drink later or some shit. What?
He was a social studies professor in Animal House.
My God.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like,
he is-
Professor,
Jesus Christ.
can I ask you a question? He's like, it's the weekend, unless you want to get drinks later.
Yeah. Fucking
And then he's like hitting on that
creepy.
lady when Will's in therapy.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, it's a math, discrete math equations. They're very erotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Are they?
I don't think they are.
Oh,
The only erotic number to me is 69, but you know.
Weird.
why is that erotic for you?
Well,
And 3.14. Am I right?
That pie.
Cameron's more of a pie guy.
Get it? I'll be the first to answer the question, I guess. I'll go with the abandonment issues one. Who knows? But I'll just say that
ooh.
one.
Camp thinks they're sneaking in some subliminal things.
I think it was sexual dysfunction.
I do too. I'm gonna go with C, sexual dysfunction.
Yep, I'm pretty sure it was sexual dysfunction.
Yeah, the actual title of the book was Sexual Dysfunction and Neurological Disorders. I don't know why she was reading that.
I just remember seeing the S and like the gold leaf, so I was like,
I just remember it being like the S, and then I remember the and neurological disorders, but I couldn't remember what the top two ones were. But as soon as he said sexual dysfunction, I was like, okay, yep, that makes sense.
Alrighty, question number 2. Will lists off a ton of names of supposedly his brothers. Which of the following was not one of the names of Will's brothers? A, Davy, B, Robbie, or C, Jimmy?
I'm gonna go with B, Robbie.
I'll also say B.
I actually am also gonna say B. I do think it's Robbie.
Oh, I'm gonna say A, Davy.
Well, ladies and gents, the names of Will's supposed brothers are Marky, Ricky, Danny, Terry, Mikey, Davy, Timmy, Tommy, Joey, Robbie, Johnny, and Brian.
Oh man.
Jimmy was not included in that.
Jimmy.
C was the
That's
correct
surprising.
answer.
What? Okay. Wow.
In the movie, the math professor Lambo and Sean, they discuss a famous Indian mathematician named Ramanujan. Ramanujan was a brilliant mathematician, but has become famous in the math community for a mistake in a widely known proof known as the Ramanujan summation, where he proposed that the sum of all natural numbers between 1 and infinity equals which of the following fractions? Is it A, -1/4, B, -1/12, or C, 17/29?
How the fuck does that even make sense?
I'll send you the link after. Maybe we put it in the show notes. There's a great Medium article. I actually did a paper on this back in undergrad for my math proof class.
What was
1 to infinity.
what was the last number, Zach?
17/29.
But how does it add up to a fraction? That's so odd.
Right?
Also, how does it add up to a negative fraction?
Can I just say this question blows ass? and I'd like it to be struck from the record.
You want it? We had to get to the math question.
I'll say negative 112.
Doing some quick maths over here.
The problem is if I... You gonna do math? Yeah, you're gonna work out this proof real quick. We just carry the 1, add the 5.
What did Carlos say?
I said negative 112.
Say negative 1/4. I don't know how it can be negative, but that's the only. Yeah, 1729 sounds really oddly specific, so it feels like a trap.
I'm gonna go with 1729 because how the fuck can you add all of those numbers up between 1 and infinity and somehow it be negative?
I'm thinking along the same lines, to be honest. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Ben. 1729. So I think that's just very specific to
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a winner, and it is Carlos.
Wow,
With
negative
negative
112.
112.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah,
What-
did a
is there
paper
a-
on this back in college. It's
Is
a
there
big
a reasoning?
meme. Yeah, it goes based off of using mathematical proofs for like continuous series and assuming them to be like numbers. So like the idea is 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 1, on and on and on. You equivalent to saying that it's 1/2, and then you do that again for another one that's 1/4, then another one and another one, and then you add them together. Where all the numbers cancel out on one side, it looks like 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way to infinity. And on the other side, the fractions add up to negative 112. It's a big goof. Turns out you can't add proofs together. But Carlos is the winner. He's got 2 points. Nothing really matters. We will see you guys next week.
I did the dirty work of scouring the internet for some not so kind reviews of Good Will Hunting, and I want to hear your thoughts on them. This review comes from Letterboxd. It's a 1/2 star out of 5, watched by Alex Mower from March 8th, 2019.
No, I like these recent ones. It's good.
Wet my whistle a little bit.
You need help?
How about a kiss? Good movie. However, the film was plagued by many janitorial inaccuracies. For starters, the first depiction of our hero in action is when he's attempting the easiest of janitorial duties, and that would be mopping. Despite this being the crudest and simplest form of janitorial work, he makes an absolute mockery of it by splashing water on the shoes of students standing nearby. This blatant disrespect for others is something that often clings to the stereotype associated with sanitation experts, despite being something that we work very hard to address. It is a shame to see this gross and frankly inaccurate characterization of custodians depicted in this movie from the very early stages of the film. Once graduated from the barbaric duty of
God.
mopping, we lay witness to the true art that is buffing hallways. Well, at least that's what the film wants you to think. In fact, we don't actually see any buffing at all. They may call it buffing, and it may look like buffing to the untrained eye, but it was certainly anything but. What you actually see depicted in the film makes very, very little janitorial sense. The tool Will is seen gliding over the floors at the prestigious MIT is actually used to strip the wax from the tile. This process would then be followed by a lengthy re-waxing session, something only done during the off-season period, when classes are out for the summer. Now you as a viewer may take a step back and ask yourself, if Will is so smart, why would he be stripping the wax from the floor if class is to resume the following morning, leaving
Good fucking question.
leaving much less than enough time to require to re-wax the floors? Well, maybe, folks, janitorial work isn't as easy as it may seem now, is it?
And this is why they bring on occupational experts for every single thing in every movie, so you can avoid this thing.
Lastly,
Oh,
and certainly my biggest gripe about the
Oh
film
my god, I thought you were done.
may seem incredibly minor, inconsequential, But I promise you that it is anything but. When on his first date, Will is caught performing a magic trick in which he is quite obviously seen throwing candies over his shoulder and onto the ground. He does not pick them up. He does not apologize. He does not feel any remorse. This, and I'm tearing up just writing this. This breaks a centuries-old janitorial code.
Oh my god.
When accepted into the world of custodial work, one must pass numerous moral exams of character. The most important being similar to the golden
Took a
rule
janitorial oath.
Oh yeah, the golden rule.
we all learned as kids. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you.
Oh, that one.
We as janitors are a community. We pick up after you. We clean your messes. And we take out your trash. But you will never take out ours. We find pride in our service, and we never be caught adding to the mess that others make. For janitorial work is our job, it is our duty, it is our call. And this makes it abundantly obvious that no janitors were contacted or referenced during the making of this film. Zach, there was no custodial occupancy, guys.
Oh, man.
Oh, I guess it's all too obvious to the untrained eye.
It is egregious to me that this film can put in the work to strive for mathematical accuracy, but when it comes to the work of the humble sanitation engineer, all decency for the profession is thrown out the window. This arrogance is disrespectful, it is offensive, and most of all, it is harmful to younger generations. By giving less attention and respect to the art of custodial work, we are teaching our children that custodians are less than that of mathematicians. This is despicable behavior and shocking to see in modern cinema. We as a society should be above this, better than this, and smarter than this.
This is our Independence Day.
Did he just make janitors like a part of a movement? We're like, we have to fix the way we portray and treat our janitorial staff in movies? Is he making this like a whole thing?
I wanted to enjoy this movie, but it is absolutely appalling
not
to
over?
me to see this level of disrespect in a 20th
What?
century film.
He's not done.
Writers Ben Affleck and Matt Damon will be sure to receive more than one strongly worded letter from me. I hope desperately to see this problem addressed. Husband, father, son, and janitor Alex Mower.
Oh,
my
man.
god.
Oh, shout out to Alex.
Look, here's the thing. When you're right, you're right, you know?
Yeah, when you're on, and he's on.
Like, I get it. Yeah, no, I'm on board.
Alex, this Alex kid he's trying to pull off some Bill Pullman speech level here.
I gotta say, in defense of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and this is the only thing I'll say because Alex, you fucking nailed it, and you're right. You're 100% right, except for the movie hinges much more on Matt Damon being a good mathematician than it does him being a good janitor.
That's true. He's actually kind of a garbage janitor because he's like yelling at like the professors. So
And clearly splashing waters on the students' shoes.
Yeah, he does not. Literally, the only reason he's there is so that he has a job for his parole officer so he doesn't go to prison. If you think Matt Damon or his character in the movie is supposed to give a shit about his job, he doesn't care about the math either. He literally takes his one proof and lights it on fire and just throws it on the ground.
Oh, man.
I just can't get over when we first see our hero in action, as if the entire movie is about him being a sanitation expert.
Good Will Hunting remix. It's like, no, go back and be a better janitor before you solve these proofs.
Yeah, he wants this to be a dress in the future. Like, oh yeah, there's going to be an extra special director's cut that comes out that George Lucas is going to do where he corrects all of Matt Damon's janitorial mistakes with CGI.
Wait, I thought this was a movie about janitors. Now they're doing math?
Yeah, going back to The Office, it's like Michael Scott, he's like, yeah, I watched the movie over the weekend, Bowling for Columbine. Was kind of disappointed. I thought it was going to be about bowling, like Kingpin. But it was something else.
I just think, I just imagine writing a review and being like, man, Alfred was so good in those movies where he picks up after that guy who fights crime. Like, it was super impressive. When we first see our hero in action, he's offering Bruce Wayne a bowl of soup. Like, what? You missed the entire mark of the movie.
About Alfred.
What we need to send this guy in response
Yeah.
is the TV clip of that episode of SpongeBob where he goes out at the talent show and he's just mopping the tomatoes and people are just going wild.
Oh yeah.
I bet this guy loves Joe Dirt.
Oh yeah, because that's correct janitorial.
Well,
Like
we don't
that-
know. We'd
that
have to
nails it.
ask this guy's opinion on if that's correct janitorial work.
True.
Has Alex reviewed
We're gonna have to check his review.
Has,
Joel or
has
Alex?
Has he reviewed Gattaca or Joe Dirt for their janitorial?
I like to imagine he only reviews movies that have some sort of janitorial aspect. Like, that's all his reviews are.
His reviews of Star Wars are just about the droids on the Death Star that sweep
Gone
around.
droids.
Those of us who had seen this film wrote down our ratings based off nostalgia and memory. And now I want to know if your rating has changed or not.
So, I've seen this movie a bunch. I love this movie. I gave it a 9 coming in, even though I think I saw it like 3-4 months ago. There wasn't a ton new that hit me this time. The movie is simple. It's extremely simple. It all takes place in dialogue, but it's a great showcase of just awesome acting, particularly on Robin Williams' part. He really pulls you in as you're watching the movie, and I like how you can go from not liking Will to feeling so bad for him, to ultimately being happy for him at the end of the movie as the car's driving away. I don't know if there's a ton that needs to be said. This is just an all-around great movie, and I'm going to leave it at a 9.
I think the last time I had seen this movie, I think this was the last movie I had watched with Robin Williams before his passing. And man, it just watching it again, I just remember it being so good, and I gave it a 9 going in, only because I couldn't really remember the plot point of really what happened between Will and Skylar, and I'm not really quite sure, what was happening going into it, but watching it again, like Zach said, the dialogue is awesome, and just the story and kind of like character development around Will, I can like really appreciate, and knowing that this is like a classic that we're always going to have with Robin Williams' work, I give it a 10 out of 10 for this one. I love this movie. I love this movie, hands down, one of my favorites. 10 out of 10.
Ladies and gents, that might be Carlos's first 10.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it
It is.
I don't remember what else I've given a 9 in the past, but I know going into it, I loved it.
Wow.
Gave it a 9, but yeah, I think this one tops it out for me, boys.
Going into this movie, I had watched it for a communications class in college, and I think I've seen it maybe once or twice since then too. I had it at a 7.5, just because not much really happens in the movie. It's just kind of it's a very dialogue-driven movie, and I don't know. Just going into it, coming out of it, I actually upped that to an 8.5. The dialogue is really well done. I know the movie's done a lot in monologue, but the acting in it is just phenomenal. The moments you get between Robin Williams and Matt Damon are just really classic.
Going in, I think I've only seen this movie once before. I give it a 7 out of 10. I think it is. I think it's a good movie. There's a lot of great dialogue that happens. I think it's very character driven. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's good and it deserves like a place in history, but I'm actually gonna lower this down to a 6. I kind of had the cam reaction of like, is it over soon? Around hour and 30 minutes in. I think it's one that needs to be watched. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. But for me, I think it slightly misses on a few marks.
Going into this movie, I didn't think I'd actually like it that much. I was kind of dragging my feet on watching it, but after watching it, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought a lot of the dialogue was really good. Like we've said, it is a relatively like simple movie, but I don't think that's bad. To me, especially a lot of the parts with Robin Williams and Matt Damon, I feel like there's still a lot of like rawness there, and like genuine, and like it feels like, especially, you know, Robin Williams' character is so genuine in the role. Like you actually kind of almost believe that it's him. You know what I mean? Like he isn't Robin Williams playing this person, and that he actually has those like feelings, especially like with him being a widower and stuff like that. And so for my final rating of this, I'm actually going to give it an 8.5. I thought it was a pretty good movie. It like I said, I wasn't waiting for it to be over, but even more than that, like there were points where it did make me feel something, where I had never seen it before. And even though I had known what the plot was and kind of knew what the movie was about, like it still, in my opinion, makes you feel something, which I think is indicative of any good art. So, yeah.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to rate and subscribe, and check out our Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod, and use the hashtag Cocktails and Classics to send us your movie and drink recommendations. Share us with your friends, and as always, watch responsibly.